Welcome to the Boulevard, where for many, Hull's season starts today. It's the Yorkshire Cup first round tie against Leeds, but the reason for the optimism was the sterling performance against Leeds at Headingley last weekend and the addition of several key players. Amongst them this man, Australian standoff Wayne Portlock, who brings with him 8 seasons of experience in the Sydney League. Wayne, welcome to the Boulevard.
Thanks very much.
Does the Sydney League prepare you for something like this?
Oh, it certainly does. You know, they say that the Sydney League's the best competition in the world, but obviously coming over here and playing against calibres of that we're playing against here today, Schofield, Ellery Hanley, you know, you can't really match it, so this is going to be a great challenge.
There's a phrase in this country anyway called in at the deep end. They've done it to you, haven't they?
Yeah, I suppose it's better off getting over and done with to start with, so they're throwing me straight in, but we'll see how we go after the game.
Do you worry about players of the calibre on the Leeds side?
Oh, obviously you have to have a look at the players that you're playing against, and they are great players and international players at that. But I suppose when it comes out in the field, it's whoever wins on the day, that's the best player on the field.
I take it all your new teammates have been talking about what happened at Headingley last weekend.
Yeah, that was a great performance, improved performance over the last couple of weeks, and hopefully we can build on that and really show the crowd and our fans today how good we can play. For you, the task is to gel as quickly as possible with all the players around you. It's not going to happen in one game, is it? No, obviously not. It's going to probably be a few rough edges today, but hopefully we can get a few things going and build on it from today.
While Wayne Portlock prepares himself for his debut, Doug Lawton, the Leeds coach, has had a whole week to prepare for what he knows will be a really tough encounter. This is a long time in rugby league. Is 7 days enough time to change the face of a game?
Well, every game is a different game. I'm hoping we're going to be better this week than we were last week.
I think both sides know what they've got in store today.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a hard game.
Your forwards last week did a lot of hard work. You've also got Ellery Hanley and you've had him for another week. Does that make a big difference?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Definitely.
Has it been working well in training?
Yeah.
What about the whole side then? Some key players back, including John Sharp and Richard Gay and the new Australian. Does that make them more dangerous from your point of view?
Yeah, but having said that, they did play very well last week. And they will improve, but I think we'll be a bit better than last week, so this fans should be in for another great game.
What do you... So the whole team led out by skipper Greg Mackey. No Hull fans, you don't need to worry, that's not Wayne Portlock with him. But there are some new faces in this Hull side. Richard Gay playing at fullback. John Sharp returns as well. And then Wayne Portlock playing at standoff. Recently arrived from Australia, where he's had a successful season as player coach with Youngs. Now the war goes up as the Leeds side led by Ellery Hanley, and that's an interesting point. From that you could almost believe that Ellery Hanley's been made captain.
Yeah, well, I think if he has, Gary Schofield will have a little sulk about it. There's no doubt about that one.
Well, that is a spectacular sight. Schofield, I'm sure his nose might be slightly out of joint already with Hanley arriving as player coach. Let's have a look at the sides then. First of all, the Hull side, the fullback returned from injury, Richard Gay. Wearing number 2, Paul Eastwood. 3, Paul Harrison. 4, Brian Blacker. 5, Chico Jackson. 6, Wayne Portlock making his debut. 7, Greg Mackey. 8, Steve Durham. 9, Lee Jackson. 10 is Ian Marlowe. The second row, 11, Steve McNamara, 12, Russ Walker. The loose forward, number 13, John Sharp, another player back from injury. The substitutes, Gary Nolan and Dean Busby. For Leeds, number 1, the fullback, Morvin Edwards, the Kiwi tourist from '89. He comes into the side and displaces, he moves to the wing. Number 2 will be John Bentley, 3, David Creaser, 4, Carl Gibson, and 5, Phil Ford. Those changes to make room for the injured Simon Irving. 6, Gary Schofield, 7, Bobby Goulding, props, Cavill Hugh and Sean Wayne. Hugh wearing 8, Wayne wearing 10. And the hooker, number 9, Colin Maskell. Second row, Paul Dixon. 12 is Mike O'Neill. 13, Ellery Hanley, and looking at that site, it's definite. Ellery Hanley is not only player coach of the first team at Leeds, he is also the captain. Gary Schofield has been deposed. The substitutes, 14, David Heron, and 15, Gary Devorty, back at the Boulevard. Of course, left the club for £130,000. With me, co-commentator Jim Campbell. Jim, after last week, I think everyone senses that this game could be Hull's.
Well, it's going to be a chance for Hull to put the mediocrity of the past few weeks behind them. And what better way to do it against a Leeds side they so narrowly failed to beat in the league last week?
That performance was good news, of course, for Noel Cleal to see his side return to the intensity he demands. And looking at the new players back in the side, key players as well in Richard Gay and John Sharp, and the key player as well in Wayne Portlock, I think it's fair to say the campaign is going to begin in earnest this afternoon.
I should say so. Wayne Portlock will add an extra kicking dimension to Hull's game, which is what they've been lacking in the past few weeks. And I'm sure Hull will come out with a win this afternoon.
So the one missing ingredient, a ball arrives. It's Paul Eastwood who's going to kick off for Hull. The first round of the Yorkshire Cup is underway. Eastwood long to that far right-hand corner. And that's Dixon who ran in there. Mike O'Neill, his second row partner. Early tackles from Marlowe and Russ Walker. Maskell. Cavill Hugh bearing in, had a great game last weekend for Leeds. Maskell again. That's Dixon. Tackled by Jackson and McNamara. Maskell to Goulding. Goulding to kick upfield. Eastwood's back, and Richard Gay's got a bit of work to do to get across, and that's an excellent kick from Bobby Goulding. He'll be delighted with that.
Yes, that's the organisation that Leeds need this week. They lacked it at certain points in last week's league match, and if they keep that up, there could be an early try on the board for the Loiners.
So early pressure for Hull. They need to win this scrum. As Portlock just checks with his centres, and Mackie sticks the ball in the scrum and wins it. Finds Portlock. That's his first touch in British Rugby League, and that's his first meeting with Gary Schofield. That's Paul Harrison running in field, running strong, but he can't get outside Paul Dixon. Jackson to Durham. An awkward pass for Durham to gather, and it's Sean Wayne who made the tackle. That's Marlowe. Jackson, Mackie goes himself and runs straight at Sean Wayne. Mike O'Neill, well, it looked like lying off. The referee decided not, as Eastwood kicks upfield. And that's the first touch for the New Zealander Morgan Edwards, and a confident looking one as well.
Oh, it's Goulding at the play of the ball. That goes on to John Bentley. Feature of last week's game was John Bentley came in field looking for work. It looks like he's doing it again here today, only this time it's at the Boulevard. This is Sean Wayne. Colin Maskell at acting half back, and they'll switch of play there. It goes on to Paul Dixon. Dixon likes to get in the early exchanges in most games. And to Cavill Hugh. Thrown to the ground there by Steve Durham, and a penalty goes to Leeds. I think the referee felt there was some kind of interference at the play of the ball. That is one of the areas that referees have been told to look into more closely this season, along with stealing the ball in a tackle. So Colin Maskell and to Sean Wayne. Sean Wayne is wrapped up. Had a good game last week, Sean Wayne, made good yardage. And again, more interference around the ruck area. The penalty goes to Leeds, and I think they're going to go for the 2 points here. With the captain's professional as Ellery Hanley, I don't think there could really have been any other options. It's Maskell to take it, about 25 yards out from the Hull goal area. Boulevard fans doing their best to distract him. So Maskell strikes, and the kick is successful. It's Hull 0, Leeds 2. An early blow there for Hull FC. Have to watch that, conceding penalties one after the other, because all you're doing is working the opposition up the pitch. Paul Eastwood to get proceedings underway. finished with kicks off. Long kick, and that's taken by Mike O'Neill. Mike O'Neill's first touch today. He makes good run by Mike O'Neill. Phil Ford acting half-back. No evidence of one of his jinking runs there from Phil Ford. This is Paul Dixon. It's wrapped up by John Sharp. John Sharp showing that his work rate hasn't been diminished from his layoff and injuries, certainly featured in some of the opening tackles. That goes down to Greg Mackey. It would have been onside because it came off a Hull player. A penalty to Hull. Apparently, little Ellery Hanley was giving a little more attention than referee would have liked. That's Paul Eastwood to take the kicks. I thought perhaps Wayne Portlock might have had a chance, but obviously not.
So as we wait for a ball to arrive, it's Lee Jackson who'll tap it. Eastwood coming in field, receives it, had to stand still before he could get going. Made a few yards before O'Neill and Dixon and Sean Wayne grab hold of. That's Portlock out to Blacker, a bit too high. Blacker had to stop in his tracks and Creaser was up very quickly. I'll make no ground. Jackson, Marlowe. Excellent tackle from Creaser there, hanging on to Marlowe's ankles. That's Jackson. This is Steve Durham, losing the ball but just managing to keep hold of it as it disappeared behind his back. Jackson looks inside, finds Sharp. That's to Richard Gay. Richard Gay's got Chico Jackson outside him. Jackson down the line, bundled into touch by Morgan Edwards. Well, that's an early sign of the strength and pace of Chico Jackson.
Indeed, and Hull are going for that wing again. They did it Headingley and they seem to think there's some kind of weakness down David Creaser and John Bentley's wing, and they're exploiting it again.
Goulding feeds the scrum, literally. And that's inside to Edwards, and he's hammered by Mackey, and John Sharp completes the job. As Bentley goes from acting halfback, and Sharp is very quickly across. Tremendous strength as he wrestled Bentley to the ground. And this time it's Sean Wayne. And again the Hull tackling up in numbers very quickly, pegging Leeds back. Michael O'Neill tries his hand. He can't make any yardage either. And that's Greg Mackey clinging on, and Steve Durham taking the rest of Dixon's body. Maskell, Hanley. John Sharp misses the tackle, but Hanley somehow gets the ball out to Edwards. Edwards on half a break, but John Sharp makes amends for his earlier mistake by taking Edwards in textbook fashion as Maskell looks for touch. And that's an excellent kick from Colin Maskell. And that's put the pressure right back on Hull.
Yes, that's right. Hull have got to watch Leeds' danger players like Ellery Hanley and Colin Maskell. Maskell's having a good game so far with his boots. Ellery Hanley likes nothing more than sucking players in and then giving the ball out to support.
So Mackey feeds the scrum, waits for it to come out, just manages to regather possession. It's a loose pass. Jackson picks up, runs at Schofield, looks to go through the tackle, can't do so, shakes off Morgan Edwards as if he weighed a couple of stone. And this time it's Russ Walker. That's Hanley and Cavill-Hugh making the tackle with Dixon in there as well. Jackson, Marlowe, straight at Mike O'Neill. Jackson again. This is Steve McNamara, man of the match at Headingley last week as far as the players were concerned. This is Greg Mackey. And now Brian Blacker, a bit of room for Chico Jackson as he gets the ball. He's past Bentley, no, cuts inside and runs straight at David Creaser. Jackson, Mackey, the high bomb from Mackey. That one really is going to come down with snow under it as Edwards goes up. Portlock up there as well, and that's Paul Harrison who picks up. And the boos of derision for Colin Morris, the referee. He decides that there was a knock-on in there as Harrison picks up. Harrison was away then.
It certainly was. I think there would have been a try-on for Paul Harrison there. And Hull are trying the bombs again. They enjoy doing that against Leeds, and they're testing them out once more.
As Gibson brings the ball away for Leeds. Maskell there at the play of the ball, goes himself and finds a gap, but Mackey's there to make the tackle. He'll had a little bit of sharpness as the first line of defence, as it switched wide from Goulding to Hanley. And that's Paul Dixon, who's hammered by Blacker and Chico Jackson. There's some strength down this left-hand flank for Hull. Goulding, nowhere to go, runs into Sharp eventually. And Durham again working hard to make sure he makes the tackle as well. And that's an excellent block from Lee Jackson that Sean Wayne picks up. Now the ball shipped out wide to John Bentley, but well shepherded by Chico Jackson, and I'm sure David Creaser won't thank John Bentley for that ball, because it came with Mackey and Blacker as well. It's Ian Marlowe with the tackle on Bentley. Maskell finds Sean Wayne. Mackey stands up to Wayne and makes a good tackle as well. A braver man than I gungered in as Wayne plays the ball to Maskell. Goulding, that's Schofield, looks to Creaser. Bit of a gap here as Gibson comes into the line. If he can squeeze that ball out, he can't. Now the linesman's on the field. I didn't see anything happen over there, but one man did. He's the man that counts. He's the man with the yellow flag. We'll wait for the verdict from referee Colin Morris, as Andy Dannett comes on with the water and a word for his teammate and the man who's taken his place in the whole pack, Ian Marlowe. And it's Wayne Portlock who gets an early taste of the biting referee's tongue in English Rugby League. And that's a penalty against Portlock for the stiff arm challenge. And so Maskell gets his second pot at goal. Maskell then, with his second attempt, he was successful from closer in the first time. It's a little more testing as he steps up. It's high enough. The cheer goes up because it's been pulled wide to the left of the Hull posts. But again, Hull are giving away penalties early on.
It's almost a case of deja vu at the Boulevard, where Leeds had 3 early penalty attempts and Simon Irving slotted them all over. You just can't give penalties away against sides with good kickers like Leeds.
As Phil Ford traps the ball and finds Gibson in the centre. Gibson runs straight at Steve McNamara, and McNamara wraps him up. Michael Dixon tackled by McNamara. Maskell to Sean Wayne. Mackey there again with a copybook tackle. Maskell, Schofield, Goulding, wrap around with Schofield. It's a dummy and Goulding goes himself, but Ian Marlowe was wise to that one. Ellery Hanley at acting halfback. Again, running sideways. Wayne Portlock makes half a tackle, enough to trip Hanley over, and Durham and Lee Jackson complete the job. And again, it's shipped wide to Schofield. Schofield to kick that nonchalant, lazy style of his. And again, the Leeds kicking is 100% at the moment. Exactly.
Gary Schofield's a good touch kicker, Colin Maskell's a good goal kicker, and they're both coming together. And Leeds have some early pressure on the whole line.
So not for the first time, Greg Mackey is going to put the ball into a scrum just 10 yards away from his line. Remember, Leeds lead by that 4th minute goal from Colin Maskell, just 2 points in it. As referee Colin Morris decides the scrum wasn't to his satisfaction. Mackey sticks it in again, the ball pops out, and it's fed along the line to Richard Gay. Richard Gay sells half a dummy. Morven Edwards doesn't buy that. Gibson completes the job. And now it's Harrison from acting halfback. Steals a couple of yards on Gibson before the Great Britain centre gets back on him. And now the Hull fans claiming that was lying on. Hull have been penalised for it. Why not Leeds? As the mistake by Russ Walker regathers the ball, but that'll be no consolation for his teammates.
I'm sure both coaches Doug Lawton and Noel Cleal have been drumming into their players all week, no errors, and Russ Walker was certainly guilty of a quite monumental one there.
Immediately the pressure back on Hull, and Leeds will have possession from the scrum. Schofield, Gibson, Creaser coming inside, again to Schofield. Schofield wide out to Phil Ford. There's men over here as Blacker comes across, and now Bentley with space to run. Runs out of time though, Harrison across, and Bentley guilty there of being a little indecisive. Ford, Schofield, Hanley, McNamara and Sharp with the tackle. That's Cavill Hugh, a forward pass, the referee decides not, as Hugh almost breaks away. He's still going as well. The penalty though is awarded. Cavill Hugh was down, got up and started again. Delivers some fine Australian vernacular to Colin Morris. Too late the decision made, and that's justice done for Hull, because that pass really did look forward.
And I think Cavill Hugh was tackled as well, so it was the right decision by Colin Morris there.
Eastwood then to clear his lines. Not the best kick he'll strike at the Threepenny stand this season, as Durham comes steaming in, but Chico Jackson takes the ball away from him and almost breaks the tackle of Sean Wayne, which looked a little high as well. Marlow on the run, and he's lost the ball. They've given a penalty. Now that must be for stripping the ball away in the tackle. Yes, it is.
It's a grey area this season. Colin Morris thinking that the ball had been stripped away.
Leeds themselves, they've not really managed to do too much of that, as Mackie tells everyone to get away from the play the ball, and McNamara comes storming through. Jackson, a lovely little pass, but Morgan Edwards was quickly up to that, and Mackie's been talking about the need to run some plays on Leeds, and he's already looking a little more adventurous as the ball's flung around, and McNamara tries to get out of one tackle, and O'Neill keeps hold of his shirt tails as the ball spread along. Mackie to Portlock to Marlow. Marlow a little wider out, he's happier there. This time though, can't make any runs, and there's no one in acting halfback. Jackson very quick to spot that. Suspiciously forward looking pass to John Sharp. 6 tackle coming up now, and the kick's needed. And that's a bad mistake from Lee Jackson. The opportunity to put a bomb up, put some pressure on the Leeds defenders.
Again, Hull are making the early errors. They've got to cut them out of the game. You can't put pressure on people if you keep dropping the ball.
Carl Gibson runs straight at Steve Durham. Maskell again there at the play the ball. And that's Sean Wayne. And Maskell runs straight at John Sharp, and he's holding his head. I think he felt that one. Hanley, Goulding, Schofield. And that's out wide to Gibson, and I think that looked forward anyway. A bit of a tussle there, Paul Harrison and Creaser having a little contretemps. But the good news for Hull is that the knock-on has been given, and they'll have the feed for this scrum.
So Greg Mackey in his new role as scrum half to put the ball in. It's a rather untidy scrum, and I think Leeds have come up with the possession there. Ellery Hanley quick to spot, the ball had gone loose. This goes out to Carl Gibson. Wayne Portlock making his presence felt there, shutting Carl Gibson down in midfield. And to Paul Dixon. Dixon hammered there by Ian Marlowe. Don't think he knew what hit him. And to Mike O'Neill. Mike O'Neill stands up in the tackle, and David Creaser guilty of the error there. Perhaps the pass a little difficult to take. And another drop ball, this time from Ian Marlowe. Leeds with a chance to spread it out wide, but Portlock was wise to that. Ellery Hanley with his sideways runs across the field. This is Gary Schofield. Schofield, lazy one-handed pass there. But Colin Morris saying that Ian Marlowe knocked on as he went down to gather the loose ball. I think he was right in that decision there.
And that's 3 Other serious handling errors from Ian Marlowe there as well. He's going to have to sort his game out.
And the penalty goes to Hull. I think that's for foot up in the scrum. Another grey area in rugby league at the moment, and that's scrums. Feeding, etc. Certainly referees and players' nightmare. Paul Eastwood with good kick. Now Ian Marlowe. Closed down by Colin Maskell, Sean Wayne. This is Steve Durham. Steve Durham kicking out there. And so Hull switch play on to John Sharp. Well read by the Leeds defence, and Carl Gibson has the ball. And we've certainly been seeing some penalties early on. Colin Morris feeling the ball was raked out of the Hull player's hand.
I think that makes a mockery of this new rule, although Hull will be grateful to have possession. Gibson wrapped up Gay, and Gay presented him the ball. I don't think he really stripped it, but now the rule goes up as the Hull finally threaten the Leeds line, and there's an offside decision right in front of the post, and I think it's Gary Schofield who's been caught offside, as Hanley, ever the consummate professional that he is, gets in the way of Greg Mackey. And I think quite sensibly, although perhaps some of the Hull fans don't agree, Hull skipper Greg Mackey decides that 2 points on the board is valuable currency at this stage in the game. So with 22 minutes on the clock, Paul Eastwood has a chance to level the scoreboard. Steps up, slots it over nice and comfortably, and that's it. Honours even for the moment. It's Hull 2, Leeds 2. Schofield then to kick off. Rifles that one straight at Portlock. Traps it soccer style and finds Russ Walker, who runs straight at the two Leeds props, Cavill Hugh and Colin Maskell, and Sean Wayne. And that's Harrison who'd run the ball in. Jackson acting halfback. Sean Wayne looks the other. Poor pass, appalling pass. And that came off Durham's knee, and that was a let-off for Hull. Jackson just gave the ball away in desperation as John Sharp comes into the line. Looks for the gap between Schofield and Hanley. At £400,000, you wouldn't expect to see a gap there as Marlowe runs the ball in. Jackson looks deep. Eastwood's going to kick. Shielded well by McNamara and Mackey, and Morgan Edwards has a chance to watch this ball bobble past him and makes a hash of it, but knocks the ball backwards. And Ian Marlowe says, "Welcome to the game of English Rugby League." Bentley off his wing, comes inside, round McNamara, round Blacker. Blacker just manages to cling on long enough to let Chico Jackson come in and help him. And as ever, Steve Durham is there to add his considerable weight to the issue. Sean Wayne buried there superbly by McNamara and Jackson. Maskell, Goulding, little grubber from Goulding. Greg Mackey's a little out of position, but he's going to get there. Looks inside for Richard Gay. And Gay, inside Goulding, can't elude his tackle. But there's a sign of a little confidence that the return of Richard Gay has given them. Mackey felt able to give that ball as Sharp passes inside to Jackson. And again, the Hull fans reckon there's lying on from this lead side. Mackey, nowhere to go, looks inside now, and Paul Harrison's in a good position, can't quite get rid of his pass as Maskell makes the tackle. This is a good spell for Hull as Mackey has possession again, looks inside to Portlock, a loose pass from Portlock picked up by Harrison. Harrison turns inside. And that's, well, the Hull fans will say that was high. Colin Morris, the referee, said it was around the shoulders. And here's John Sharp to Marlowe, short pass to Marlowe as well. And this is the last tackle, and this time they've got to get the kick off. They will do. Down the blind side though, McNamara decides not to kick, looks inside, and David Creaser picks up that pass as John Sharp dives in, and the Leeds fans over in that end say that was unfair. As Bentley runs straight at Brian Blacker and John Sharp. Maskell to Sean Wayne, straight at McNamara, and McNamara was up to that task, bundled Wayne backwards. That's Schofield to kick. And again, Gary Schofield finds an excellent touch.
Leeds are starting to come together, they're getting organised, they're putting the players together, but so are Hull, and that shows why honours are even after about half an hour of the first half gone.
Mackey to feed the scrum again. Hull pushed off it, not even packing down properly there as Eastwood comes off his wing, looks inside to Portlock. Portlock's got men outside him, decides against it, and he looks for the gap that doesn't exist between Schofield and Hanley. And finally, Ellery Hanley penalised for laying on. I think a lot of the Hull fans would have preferred to have seen a few of those decisions coming a little earlier. They got caught themselves for it early on in the game. But Eastwood can make some ground here. He does, takes play just 12 or 13 yards into Leeds territory. Jackson, that's Eastwood coming off his line, off his wing. He finds Sean Wayne a little too strong for him as Jackson taps him on the backside. It's out to Mackey and Portlock, and a short pass to Walker. The Hull are running quite well off Portlock, considering this is his first game and he's had 2 training sessions.
That's true. Portlock's putting in his short balls for the forwards to run onto, and I think that's what Noel Cleal brought him here for, in addition to his kicking.
Again, we saw another neat little move, a more adventurous move from Hull. McNamara finally gets up from the tackle, which O'Neill didn't seem to want him to do, and Steve Durham takes his turn to run the ball in. Jackson inside to Sharp. Out to the wing to Jackson. Jackson cuts off the line and gets past Bentley. It's lucky for Leeds that Creaser was there, and you can see why Hull think there is that weakness on the Leeds right-hand flank as Portlock has some space moving. He's got the dummy. Looks the ball out to Blacker. Blacker can't quite gather. Nor can Eastwood. Eastwood will at least get possession back as he eludes the tackle of Morgan Edwards. Looks to get the pass out. That's the 6th tackle. And that was a golden opportunity, and it was a case of inches.
It was a wasted chance. It was great play from Wayne Portlock. He spotted the gap, sold Leeds defence to dummy, and they really should have had 4 points on the board there.
And I think it was Blacker who just couldn't quite gather the pass as Ellery Hanley brings the ball away for Leeds. That's Cavalhue. McNamara again in with the tackle. Sharp very quick to join him. And there's the penalty. Again for not clearing after the tackle. And all of a sudden Colin Morris is stamping down on this.
Yes, it's what referees in this country tend to do, like have a page on certain rules one week and then the other. And obviously Colin Morris has got it in his head that it's lying on this week.
And not even this week, just for the last few moments, because he's not been that strict in the middle half of this first period. As Sean Wayne, his first man in for Leeds. Now Cavalhue, his prop partner. Steve Durham welcomes him. Schofield, Goulding, men outside him. Carl Gibson coming round from the opposite centre. And there's Ellery Hanley, a forward pass, say the Hull fans, not given by Colin Morris. And there's anger over in the old main stand. Blacker tries to get out of the way. Eastwood takes, Hanley takes his time to get up. Goulding out to Schofield, out to Sean Wayne. Wayne decided not to give the pass out to Bentley. Maskell, Schofield, doesn't grab a kick, no, a little chip from Schofield, and an excellent kick as well. Eastwood, Gay misses it. Eastwood is there to tidy up, and Richard Gay a little lucky to get away with that.
Very risky for Hull. Gary Schofield saw there was no sweeper and tried the chip, and it could have been a score for Leeds there. It was a lucky escape for Paul Eastwood.
Well, Eastwood, of course, was the man who prevented any further damage. Richard Gay, who found the ball eluding him. But you can tell from a chip like that just why Leeds valued Schofield so highly when they signed him from Hull. as Eastwood slices his drop slightly, but it's still a good one, and Hanley picks up. Portlock gets in nice and low, and McNamara goes upstairs, and Hanley gets no further than the Hull 25. That's Dixon. Goulding running behind the play, the ball looks out wide to O'Neill. O'Neill misses it, and the ball's loose, and eventually it's Russ Walker who gathers for Hull. Jackson goes from acting halfback to Portlock. Nice little sidestep Portlock's got there, but Gibson that time wasn't buying anything. Jackson again from acting halfback, and again he's still going as Phil Ford comes across to make the tackle, but he can't prevent Lee Jackson making some useful yardage. Chico Jackson straight at Schofield, gives the ball out to McNamara. McNamara though can't keep it, and now Dixon, if he's got men to pass, can do so as Hanley and Chico Jackson tangle in midfield. Goulding to Schofield, and the whole fans feel that should have been a crossing decision as Maskell finds Dixon.
So Leeds just into Hull's half. This goes out to Bobby Goulding, onto Ellery Hanley. Hanley stands in a tackle, gives it back to Goulding. A bit of confusion there between the midfield from Leeds, trying to get the wraparound move working. Schofield with the bomb. Richard gears up to it, evades the tackle of Carl Gibson, comes in field, out to Chico Jackson. Chico Jackson cuts in, gets into Russ Walker. Russ Walker just didn't have the support there. Good play from Hull FC, and it's another penalty. Lying on in the tackle. And it looks like Colin Morris is going to stamp down hard on this. He's come out either to give Ellery Hanley a warning about that particular tackle, or just his side's laying on generally.
Referee Colin Morris there talking to Jackson and Hanley well after their little scuffle in the middle of the park, and that's quite good refereeing. He let the incident go as it was happening and goes back and makes amends later on.
So another penalty for Hull. I wouldn't like to be totting up the penalty count for this first half, but it must be quite considerable. And Paul Eastwood with the kick. Just goes over the new threatening stand. Steve Durham. He's not going to get anywhere with Colin Maskell and Sean Wayne hanging on to him. Wayne Portlock switching play inside to John Sharp. John Sharp showing no reaction so far to his hernia operation. Jackson from acting halfback, short ball onto Wayne Portlock. Some heavy tackling from Hanley and Dixon, and it looks to have taken a bit out of Portlock. And a penalty to Hull. Another penalty to Hull. Colin Morris claiming again the ball was stolen in the tackle, reefed away from Steve Durham. So it's about 30 yards out, just in front of the posts. Paul Eastwood to kick.
Second minute goal leveling the scoreline after Maskell had opened it after just 28
so Paul Eastwood to take the kick.
Just steadies himself now.
Taking a fairly long run up.
And steps up.
Goes in, strikes it
well.
Very well, and it goes over. It's Hull 4, Leeds 2. Very nonchalantly taken penalty kick by Paul Eastwood. When you kick internationally for your country, well, you're not too bothered about those. So the man who's been recently stripped of his captaincy gets the Loiners underway again. Ball bouncing easily there for Steve McNamara. Steve McNamara slipped slightly. Colin Maskell made sure he didn't get up again. It's Paul Eastwood. Paul Eastwood tries to find a way through Ellery Hanley and Mike O'Neill, but there is none. Lee Jackson. And Ian Marlowe, Hanley's been rather slippery to say the least in the first half. He's dropped some passes, he's lost the ball in tackles. Not having the happiest of games, Ian Marlowe. Sean Wayne drives in, trying to get the ball away to his ex-Wigan teammate Bobby Goulding. As Mike O'Neill, well policed by the whole defence, couldn't get the ball away. And Schofield jinx. Slippery Schofield, very slippery customer.
And Hull really are under some pressure now as Schofield gets to his feet. As Goulding looks out to Dixon, and he eventually is buried, still just 10 yards away from the Hull post. This is the last tackle. I think we can expect to see this ball disappear up into the sky. It doesn't, but Sean Wayne drops the ball as Cavill Hugh thought his moment of glory had come. That's the knock-on on the last tackle, so it'll be a turnover to Hull. Just 5 yards away from their line. They've got some pressure to relieve here, and that'll be done by Paul Harrison, who's got some room to run. And that's good yardage by Harrison. Now Ian Marlowe holds on to it that time, and half gets through the tackle of O'Neill, gets to the Hull 25. Jackson looks to Walker, goes himself in the end, looks inside for the support. The support was a bit slow to pick up on that. And Marlowe at acting halfback to Portlock. Portlock running straight into Maskell. Again Hull go blindside. Towards his Leeds right flank, it's John Sharp who's getting the treatment from Schofield, Maskell and Wayne. Not sure he enjoyed that, John Sharp. Eastwood to kick. Straight into the arms of Morgan Edwards. He's brought down by McNamara and Ian Marlowe. Goulding looks inside to Bentley. Bentley crossfield. Welcome there by Walker and Jackson as Gibson goes. Straight into Marlowe and McNamara. Stopped dead in his tracks. Now that's Cavill Hugh. And again breaking tackles just as he did at Headingley last week. The pick of the Leeds forwards. I think he's looking the same again this week. Maskell finds Goulding. Goulding feints for the chip and then loops along for high pass over. And that's gathered by Dixon. Dixon's still going. The tackles need to come in now. And McNamara misses one as well as Hanley gets in the way. And the Boulevard fans are angry at the way Hanley shielded his player from the tackle as Goulding comes in with a drop goal, and it looks good, and it is as well. A lovely little drop goal there from Bobby Goulding. That makes the scorelines Hull 4, Leeds 3. So Paul Eastwood to kick off. High towards the right-hand corner of the field where Ford comes out, but O'Neill decides he's the man to take it. Straight into Walker. Assistance from Paul Harrison. Now Phil Ford. And that's Dixon and Wayne running again. Finds Hanley. Shrugs off the tackle of Walker, and Hanley's still going. Still going. Finds Goulding as well, and there's space down the left-hand flank for Leeds as Morgan Edwards looks inside and finds Paul Harrison in the Hull shirt. And again, a lucky escape for Hull.
Good passage of play by Leeds there. Ellery Hanley set it up by sucking in runners and passing the ball out of the tackle. And if you're a Hull fan, well, Leeds found the right man.
As the linesman again gets his few seconds of stardom. And it looks like a spot of gouging, or at least rubbing of the hand in the face. That was the motion that the linesman was making. As Ian Marlowe still on the floor in the Leeds half, holding his ankle. Not been the happiest of games for him, and if it's as painful as it looks, then it could be an unhappy ending as well. Keith Warner, the physio, giving Marlowe treatment as Eastwood shapes to kick. Jackson to John Sharp. Storming run from Sharp, a little high from Maskell, but not high enough as far as Colin Morris is concerned. He says play on as Steve Durham sidesteps and then carries on the way he was going. I didn't say on Maskell, who was very quick away from acting halfback, but Jackson this time goes, looks inside, and he's crunched by Gibson. It's a poor ball, well gathered by Mackey, and Mackey makes half a break, can't quite get past Sean Wayne as the hooter goes for half-time. A first half that's been even harder and tighter than last week's. 2 penalties from Eastwood after 22 and 35 minutes for Hull. A goal from Maskell after just 4 and a drop goal from Goulding after 38. And just as last week, it really is tight.
It's been absolute stalemate here in the first half, and I think it's going to be that way in the second half. Only Leeds have the game breakers. They've got the men to break the deadlock, so it could just edge the Liners' way.
The half-time score then, Hull 4, Leeds 3. Players then out for the second half, and judging by the first 40 minutes, it's going to be very tight. Chances will be few and far between. The side that takes them will be the winner.
I think it's more likely that Leeds are going to decide to take them because, as I said before, they've got the game breakers. They've got the men who can make the breaks, make a play out with nothing, like Ellery Hanley and Gary Schofield. But Hull shouldn't be disheartened. If they keep the pressure on Leeds, they could come out with the first win of the season.
I think that's probably the secret. Pressure rugby. And they've not quite kept that on. As Schofield kicks off. And that's Russ Walker. Ian Marlowe has come out for the second half, and he picks the ball up despite his ankle injury late in the first half. And he makes a few yards as well as David Heron, the Leeds substitute, completes the tackle. Steve Durham. Leeds hunting as a pack. Durham struggles to get up, and Eastwood's going to kick early. Hanley quick up on him, but not quick enough, and that's a towering kick by Eastwood, but Morven Edwards was there, watched it very well. As Portlock and McNamara make the tackle on him, 10 yards inside the Leeds half. John Bentley pushed backwards by Portlock and Durham, and now Sean Wayne. Again Durham there, busy making tackles. Now Cavill Hugh looks back through where they run the ball, and storming run there. There's wide open spaces for Cavill Hugh just round the play of the ball.
Well, I've got to watch Cavill Hugh. He's one of Leeds' best forwards. He made the hard yards this week. He's doing the same again in this match, and they've got to keep him under lock and key if they want to win this one.
Hanley, Schofield, dummies the kick, now he's got some space, tries to get inside John Sharp, can't quite do it, tries to pass the ball out. Hanley's going to be offside or just a forward pass. It's going to be offside, and the King looks at the referee and looks away in disgust. Touch of inexperience from Schofield there, flinging that ball out as Eastwood kicks to touch. Just under us on the top of the Thruppney stand. Jackson to tap, and the 2 forwards running on to Durham and Walker, but Durham's the one who gets the ball. He also gets Sean Wayne up very quickly indeed, and the fans in the main stand say the Leeds pack were offside. John Sharp down the blind side, runs at Gibson. Maskell across quickly to help. Jackson to Mackey to Portlock, and a gap again for Portlock, almost gets through it, but David Heron very quickly on there. He's got a useful little dummy and sidestep as Portlock, as Mackey now looks for a little chip ahead. Is Richard Gay offside? He's going to gather. No, he's not, but there's Walker on this. Walker's going all the way. Walker scored under the posts. And it's the Leeds defence that has broken.
An excellent try from Hull, a try of vision and enterprise. Greg Mackey saw there was no one back there. He tried a chip. Richard Gay collected and did a marginally forward ball onto Russ Walker to go under the post for a great try.
Actually, I think Hull were lucky there because Gay looked like he was the man to collect. There was a wicked bounce. I suspect Gay might have been pulled back for being offside. It bounced back over his head. And Jackson was the man who just flicked a lovely little instant ball to Russ Walker. And for the second week in succession, we saw the Premiership trophy dive from Russ Walker as he went under the posts. An excellent try, and Walker really is proving quite a finisher.
Yeah, he's becoming quite a try scorer in the past 2 games. It's an old cliche, you never know which way the ball's going to bounce. Good opportunism from Hull, a great ball from Lee Jackson onto Russ Walker.
Eastwood then to add on the 2 points. Russ Walker's try, we've had 4 minutes of this half, and Eastwood strokes it over, and that's Hull 10, Leeds 3. The substitution being made over on the far side. We said Ian Marlowe would come out with his ankle injury. He's not lasted long. He's in the dugout, nursing his right foot, and it's Dean Busby who lost his place to John Sharp, who's on the side, in the side, as Schofield kicks off. Portlock, a good call, finds Walker. Walker running strong, straight at O'Neill, past O'Neill, almost past O'Neill. Eventually he and Heron holds Walker in his tracks. He's taken a bang on his head as Walker, as Jackson finds Durham, a nice little inside ball, and another one to Jackson. And again, quick play, but this time John Sharp's going to be wrapped up. He's not. John Sharp eludes the tackle. It finds Dean Busby, his first touch, inside to Jackson, and inside to Paul Eastwood. But the referee has already pulled the play back. The Hull fans were celebrating a second try, a bit too premature. To be fair to Colin Morris, he was right there. Possibly a little harsh though. It looked a bit marginal, and the chance has gone begging.
What a gem of a try that would have been if Hull had scored, but they haven't. I thought Colin Morris was perhaps been a little unfair, but if Hull can win this scrum against the head, they've still got the pressure on Leeds, and they could get the all-important score that will enable them to control the game.
Well, the one man we're missing here is Bobby Goulding. He finally arrives at the scrum. Down it goes, and yes, Hull have won the ball, and Mackey's come away with it to Portlock. Portlock looks to Harrison, tries to get past Schofield. Harrison gets it. Gaze outside, and Gibson though across with an excellent tackle, and that was just the break Hull needed.
That's right, as I said, if they won it against the head, they could keep the pressure on Leeds, and if Hull don't make any silly handling errors, then they could be in control of this game and go further in the Yorkshire Cup.
Jackson inside to Durham. Durham runs at Schofield. Gets help to Schofield from Creaser and Mike O'Neill, and again the tacklers very slow to get out of the way as Jackson finds Walker. Walker rather high from Sean Wayne, and he's feeling that. The fans again angry that Colin Morris hasn't given the decision as Mackey comes back through the play. The ball looks inside and a hand in from Schofield, but Richard Gay's away. Richard Gay's going towards the corner, looped inside pass, and that was a poor one. Now David Creaser's got time to move. Greg Mackey though in there with a tremendous tackle, but he's been penalised for dumping or spearing. Wayne Portlock is furious. Has to be said though, Richard Gay gave a rather silly pass.
Yes, it was a bit nonchalant, as you could say, but this game's gone from being a dour struggle to end-to-end action. If it carries on like this, I'm sure the Hull fans or the Leeds fans won't be complaining.
And again, the least popular man at the boulevard is the man in the middle, Colin Morris, earning the wrath of the Hull fans. Goulding, Schofield, Heron, in space here for Edwards. Edwards finally brought down by Eastwood as Mackey made half the tackle, but that's good yardage as the linesman's on the pitch saying get up, get up, get up. And both Lee Jackson and Paul Eastwood are furious. I'm not sure it's the linesman's job to actually run onto the pitch and say get up, but that's what he's done. And so the penalty is just 5 yards away from the Hull line, and the Hull forwards have got to get across to cover these runs. As Cavill Hughes having a discussion with Morris as Goulding just taps the ball backwards. And I think the Hull players are feeling they're being a little bit hard done by the referee. They felt that way last week as well, as Schofield finds Heron. Heron Long pass out to Creaser. Creaser to Bentley. Looked a bit forward, that Bentley with space. But Jackson's going to bundle him towards touch. He's put in touch. The flag goes up. A huge cheer from the Hull fans. And Hull will get to feed the scrum.
Hull will get to feed the scrum because John Bentley was very hesitant there. I feel they could do well to make a substitution for John Bentley because he's been edgy about his play, hasn't really gone forward enough and made the breaks that Leeds need to win the game. There's something wrong with the scrum. Maybe referee actually thought it was fed. That's something you don't see very often these days. Wanting things to be just right. There's Greg Mackey. Hands on to Chico Jackson. Chico Jackson thought better of passing there. Basically, there was no one to pass to. Greg Mackey. Greg Mackey dummies. Moment's hesitation punished there by the Leeds defence and punished a bit too harshly by John Bentley. Roughing up in the tackle. So more penalties. Chance for Paul Eastwood to relieve the Hull line. Both sides have really opened up in this second half. It's been exciting to watch. Resounding thud there as the ball hits our camera position. Russ Walker, meanwhile, gets action on the way on the pitch. Greg Mackey, Steve McNamara. Very attentive on the tackles, Colin Morris. Greg Mackey, Wayne Portlock. Richard Gay on to Brian Blacker. Brian Blacker, pace off the mark there from Brian Blacker. Taking him into the Leeds half. Wayne Portlock with a run around. On to Steve Durham, who's had a quiet game compared to last week. The pressure's still on. This is Lee Jackson, the dart from acting halfback. 25 yards out now. Greg Mackey signalling for a bomb. He puts the high kick up. Taken out late from Schofield. Marvin Edwards is up to it. I think that's probably why Leeds brought him in place of John Gallagher. But Greg Mackey was taken out very late after he'd taken that kick. And we've got scuffles on the pitch. Referee having to step in to maintain order. And the other side of the coin, Leeds fullback Marvin Edwards is down, but he'll be well enough to get up and play the ball. Hull fans break into a chorus of Old Faithful there, inspiring their favourites into a big defensive effort, trying to keep Leeds pinned down the field. Ellery Hanley playing the old soldier there. Referee claimed he was caught by a swinging arm from one of the Hull tacklers, and Hanley is definitely down. Whether it's genuine or not, it's another matter.
It looked to me like he ducked under the tackle there, and well, the Hull players feel one or two of the Leeds players were treated rather favourably last weekend. I've got a feeling they'll come off the pitch today and say exactly the same thing. But all of a sudden we've got a real game on our hands, and part of it's due to the fact that Hull are looking to the flanks. They're spreading the ball wide, they're stretching this Leeds defence and opening the game up. Dixon driving in on halfway, loops the pass out. There's going to be a penalty for Hull. No, a scrum down because Morris says he'd called tackle. The ball was popped out afterwards. Mackey feeds the scrum, which had already collapsed, and Portlock goes blindside. Goulding's with him, looks outside to Chico Jackson. Jackson's half past Bentley, can't stay in field. Yes, he can. Jackson did very well, still in field. And he's got to make sure he stays in field when he gets up as Portlock taps him, takes the ball to Busby. Busby can't get past Hanley, and then Sean Wayne coming in a little late for the Hull fans' taste. Plays the ball. Mackey, Portlock, they've linked well today. And there's an interception. Who else but Gary Schofield? How many times has he done this? He's going under the posts, and Schofield has scored under the posts. And if Gary Schofield has done that once at the Boulevard, he's done it 1,000 times.
There's no wonder Gary Schofield was known as the poacher. I didn't see him coming, but he's such a good reader of the game. He saw the short pass and he intercepted it, and there's no one stops Gary Schofield once he's done that.
The man who gave the pass, Wayne Portlock, looked round with utter disbelief on his face as Schofield dashes through. Slots it over quite comfortably. The game is back in the melting point. It's Hull 10, Leeds 9. Eastwood with the restart. Long and deep, too long, too deep. And that's not a good time to make an error like that, because Leeds have possession right on the halfway line. Penalty against Paul Eastwood. Dixon. It's Cavill Hugh. Straight at Portlock, low tackle from Portlock. McNamara up top again. Schofield to Heron. Heron, a loose pass there, saw the tacklers coming. And a knock-on is awarded. And I think it was against Carl Gibson. Now it's the Leeds fans' turn to whistle and clap and boo Colin Morris, who'd be a rugby league referee. Mackie feeds the scrum. It was so obvious that really it had to be given. No one touched that ball and it ended up at Dean Busby's feet at loose forward. And while you can get away with most things, I think Mackie was expecting a little too much to get away with that one. So again, mistakes put the pressure back on Hull. 2 penalties in quick succession, and that's Sean Wayne. Now Dixon. Straight at Jackson. Jackson eventually makes the tackle, but not before Dixon had run with him for 5 yards. Now there's going to be a penalty. And I've got to look at that one and say that Dixon played for that. It doesn't matter. Morris has decided the penalty should be given. And so a penalty from the kick-off, a penalty for feeding, a penalty for lying on, gives Maskell this opportunity to put Leeds ahead, takes it. Leeds are back in the lead for the first time since midway through the first half. It's Hull 10, Leeds 11. In the space of just 4 minutes, this game has been turned on its head as Eastwood restarts, gets it right this time, and Dixon slips on his own goal line, runs straight at Jackson. Jackson, though, makes his tackle. Phil Ford, straight at Jackson, he'll be bundled backwards. An interception pass, 3 penalties, it's so easy. Leeds have got the lead.
You're right, Leeds have got the lead and Hull are on the rack again. This game's gone so many ways, it's unbelievable. And by the end of it, we could see Hull as winners. You never know.
Jackson narrowly fails to intercept. And the sad thing for Hull is that these points for Leeds have come at a time when they were taking the game by the scruff of the neck. Hanley looks inside for the pass to Maskell, didn't give it. Rolls over. Maskell, Schofield, That's Sean Wayne. Straight at McNamara. Eventually Durham finishes the job. That's Maskell from acting halfback. Strong run from him. Wayne Portlock makes the tackle. Goulding again. Schofield. Long pass out. Very quickly up there was Harrison on Dixon. And Schofield this time will kick for touch. Once again, he finds his target.
Leeds beginning to fire on all cylinders now after that Gary Schofield interception try. Leeds, they have some class players who can just turn a game around at the click of fingers, like Gary Schofield, for example. So, Richard Gay wrapped up well by Marvin Edwards and Carl Gibson. Goes on to John Sharp. Sharp's been solid, if not spectacular, so far in the match. Could he open out in the remaining minutes? So it's good ball from Steve Doran onto Lee Jackson. Ankle tap by Carl Gibson. There wasn't much support for the hooker. This is Wayne Portlock. Onto Paul Harrison. Harrison, well, did he leave it behind him or did he knock on? It's irrelevant now. Cavill Hughes landed on it.
And Harrison there guilty of dropping a relatively simple pass as Gibson drives the ball in on halfway. And again we're looking at mistakes which are costing Hull dear as Maskell finds Sean Wayne from play the ball. Tries of forward, we've got the halfway line to prove that it looked a little suspicious to say the least as Cavill Hughes left out and Dixon again gets to run with the ball and McNamara eventually makes his tackle. A good work from Portlock to block the pass out. Goulding, Schofield, Hanley. Half a break for Hanley, looks inside, but there's a useful handed from Steve Durham, and he's got Bentley. 6 more tackles though for Leeds, and the fans don't like it, but that time Mr Morris was right, as the other Leeds substitute, Gary DeVorty, another player who's graced the hallowed Boulevard turf, and this time Hanley with space to run. Chico Jackson though has got the tackle in. In fact, it's Brian Blacker there. Both he and Jackson very eager to get on to Hanley as the pass is strung long out to Schofield, brilliantly picked up, and Dixon's got some space, looks inside, a loose pass, Schofield kicks on, and Richard Gay hacks the ball away under pressure from Gibson, and the fans angry there, they felt the ball had gone behind the goal line. They certainly wanted some sort of decision from Morris and not the one he gave. So the game has its twists and turns, and Hull under pressure as Eastwood looks to clear. Straight at Schofield, and Schofield gets one right where it hurts. And he's suffering. There'll be a few Hull fans delighted to see that. The vindictive or the cries of Judas have gone up, as always, when Schofield appears. And again, the very ragged Hull scrum, but Mackie this time does very well to pick up. And catches Goulding with a boot, but eventually plays the ball, and Walker tries to bring the ball away, can't get far, and now there's going to be a penalty awarded. The linesman's on the pitch, Walker crunched into, Hanley talking to the referee, told to go away, and again told to get out of the way. Gibson's pulled across, and Gibson will get the talking to. We wait for the signal. As the clock stops, the treatment to Goulding.
You can't say moments are rare like this in Hull Leeds game. There's always a lot of needle, a lot of claret flowing, as they say. There's been a lot of niggling in this off the ball incidents.
Vintage claret, it should be said. Always interesting as Eastwood tries to catch us with one of his clearances, fails to do so, but he did find touch, that'll do for him. Jackson taps the ball, Durham running in, straight at Maskell. Gibson's in there to help. Sean Wayne adds his considerable bulk, and that's enough to put Durham on his back. Now McNamara across the play the ball. That was a little too slow, not quite sharp enough to work. He makes just 3 or 4 yards. This time Jackson from acting halfback. Sharp straight at Maskell and had his pace taken off him by Maskell's shoulder charge, and Dixon made sure. Jackson, Mackie, Portlock. Looks outside, very wary of where Schofield is these days, and he saw Schofield there, decided, no pass. McNamara around the back of the play the ball. There's Walker, bit of space, looks inside for the pass, no support there. As Goulding makes the tackle. This time it's Portlock with a drop goal. It's a poor one. That's going to go dead. And that drop kick was always a bit too hurried. You need to compose yourself for those.
It's not the best drop kick I've ever seen. Wayne Portlock's not having the best of times at the moment. The interception pass and the poor drop goal. He's got to get his act together a bit.
Ellery Hanley meets Ross Walker, meets Steve Durham, meets the turf. Sean Wayne. These Leeds forwards are starting to run strongly. Starting to find a little more space. Goulding now looks outside, takes it himself. Durham and McNamara do the job on him. Maskell to kick, and again it looks a good one. Inch perfect kick from Maskell, just creeps into touch.
Leeds have got the confidence now, but I think the point about this second half is both sides have got the confidence, and it really could go either way. I wouldn't like to predict the result for this game.
Just a point in it. That point goes in Leeds' favour. Goulding's drop goal, we said at the time, could prove valuable. It is at the moment, and again the Hull scrum's in trouble, and they've come up with the ball though. The stoppage as Russ Walker stands up, and it's Lee Jackson who's got a knock on the head. And Hull's scrum, usually, I mean, last season was pushing everyone else off the ball. This time Leeds have wheeled and shoved and made a real mess of Hull's ball.
That could have something to do with the fact that Andy Dannett's not in the pack, and of course Carl Harrison was transferred, so that does weaken the pack strength a lot. But a side like Hull do rely on the forwards. They need big pushes at scrums. At the moment they're not getting them.
John Sharp just on the 25. There's Mackie, well taken, poor pass, and Paul Harrison now tries to get inside Gibson, can't do so. We've had 26 minutes of this half. Steve Durham rushes off Gibson and almost gets past Devorty as well. Plays the ball, Jackson with space to go, decides to pass instead, and Mackie will kick. Lots of space, and that ball looks perfect. It's just going to creep into touch. No, it's not. Morgan Edwards is across. Eastwood and Black are across quickly to cover him, and they wrap him up. Just 10 yards from his own line. And now Hull have got to keep Leeds pegged back here, keep the pressure on, stop them clearing their line. And that's John Bentley coming in field, and he's makes a few useful yards as Jackson grabbed hold of him. Both Jacksons grabbed hold of him. Ellery Hanley. And that's good tackling from Lee Jackson and Russ Walker. Cavill Hugh. Maskell to Sean Wayne. Loses the ball. Devorty's going to kick on. The whistle's going to go. He's pulled it back, and he's just given the knock on. This is what we were talking about. We wanted pressure straight back on the Leeds line. This is the opportunity for Hull, but they've got to hold this scrum steady.
The errors are starting to creep into Leeds' game again. Hull have another scrum. As you say, they've got to have a big push, win the scrum, and get the try.
They look for the blindside move, not quite swift enough. In fact, the scrum really had wheeled the wrong way as Goulding tough in the tackle on Eastwood. Now Busby looks to sell the King of Dummy, does so. But unfortunately for him, Gary Devorty was there to finish off the job. Now Jackson acting halfback. Maskell should be penalised for that. There's no way he was marking up properly. Colin Morris lets it go though. And Busby quickly out to Mackie, to Portlock. Portlock checks where Schofield is, and that looked like a high tackle, but not given. The ball sprung out to Blacker. Blacker coming in field when really he could have gone out wide. And now John Sharp. Ball out to Chico Jackson. Jackson held up. He's got to stay in field, and he's done it as well. This is the last tackle. We'll see another bomb from Mackie. We won't. It's a pass strung out to Jackson, now to Portlock. Portlock gives a good pass. Can they gather? Busby's going to look for the support. There it is, Greg Mackie! Greg Mackie scored! And you can see the delight in the whole pack. The whole team's there with Mackie to celebrate. The Hull skipper very slow to get to his feet. And that try came from keeping the ball alive, and then a superb inside pass from Busby.
What superb handling from Hull FC. Dean Busby showing some great skills reminiscent of some forwards like Johnny Whiteley and Steve Norton to set Greg Mackey up for that try.
It looked like Busby had taken the wrong option. There was space outside him on the right, and just as the Leeds cover seemed to be there to snuffle him up, he looked inside. There was Greg Mackey, and the Hull skipper took a knock. He won't mind. He's got 4 very valuable points on the board for Hull. Paul Eastwood then to kick his 4th goal of the match. And it's close, but through the posts, and that opens up a 5-point lead for Hull. The score, Hull 16, Leeds 11. The post gets in the way from Russ Walker's attempts to gather. But he gets good yardage, good 15 yards there, 20 yards, plays the ball. Richard Gay's in there, now Steve Durham runs at Hanley. And he takes play just to the Hull 22, no one at acting half-back. Jackson suddenly looks around and here's McNamara. And again the Hull fans think that was high, and McNamara bites the turf. So Steve Durham will play the ball as McNamara gets treatment. And here's John Sharp, straight at Schofield. Sean Wayne though prevents his former captain having to do any work. Lee Jackson finds Eastwood. Eastwood will kick, and that's a towering kick as well, but straight down the throat of Morgan Edwards. And he's going to run at Blacker. He's not going to get very far. Chico Jackson bundles him to the floor. Those two tackle like tigers together, don't they?
They do, as I said, it had strength down that wing, and Morgan Edwards there was showing some of the problems his counterpart John Gallagher had, was running the ball out.
Now Gary Devorty doesn't get far. Blacker again with a tackle, and that's Sean Wayne. There's a new ferocity to this Hull tackling as Wayne is slow to get to his feet. Maskell looks long to Schofield. Schofield to Cavill Hugh, running at width, and Hugh's going to make half a break but can't get any further. But that was lucky for Hull that Jackson kept hold.
Cavill Hugh's been playing very well for Leeds. He's been making the yards, and if only he'd had a bit more support, they could have made some very productive situations from them.
Now Richard Gay to bring the ball away. Tries to sell the dummy to Devorty. Devorty doesn't take it. Eastwood's going to come off his wing and try and get to halfway. Doesn't get very far because Hanley's so quick across the field. Probably runs faster sideways than he does forwards. John Sharp. Short pass to Jackson. That gets the ball out of the Hull 25. A signal from Greg Mackey. That signal is, well, I'm sure the signal wasn't that Mackey was going to drop the ball. That's what he's done. Now John Sharp. Wanted some support there. There was nothing for him. And Maskell finished the tackle. Last tackle. This kick's got to be good. And again, it's another long one, but again, Morgan Edwards is right underneath it. And the Hull cover slower to get across. And Edwards brings the ball back up to within 10 yards of the halfway line. Devorty to Gibson. Gibson not showing the appetite to run straight into the tackle there of Lee Jackson. Tried to get round it, didn't get very far, and Devorty will play at acting halfback. Tries to sell the dummy. Russ Walker wasn't buying that one. Goulding. That's Dixon. And Jackson very, very fast across. Cavill Hugh. Takes a knock from Mackey as Jackson made half a tackle, and Cavill Hugh's the one forward who seems capable of making the breaks for Leeds at the moment. As Hanley almost knocks on, regathers though. Heron with some space, Creaser, and now Bentley outside, and Mackey's come across. He's going to wrap Creaser up, but the ball's away to Bentley, and Bentley's put in touch. And there's going to be a turnover. I presume that's a forward pass. Hull have got possession.
We just saw there Leeds love throwing the ball about, and I'm sure they're going to do that more and more as the game progresses, as they look for the try, which is going to put them back into it.
Steve Durham changes his mind as he sees a blanket of blue and yellow shirts Probably didn't like the look of them, to be honest. Jackson. Here's Mackie directing his troops, goes alone, runs straight at Cavalhue. Not a good idea when you're Mackie's size. Steve Durham. Looks for the pass, didn't come as Portlock's flattened by Carl Gibson. And Richard Gay can't quite hold on to that pass. Devorty picks up. And Greg Mackie guilty there of changing his mind and changing his mind again. Gibson crosses halfway. Cavalhue. This time doesn't make the break. Sharp and McNamara tackling. Goulding. Heron. Looks inside. Schofield. Hanley in the way. And again some anger from the whole fans. Hanley to play the ball. Dummies the kick. Goes sideways. Half tackle. And still gets the ball away. It's Creaser to Gibson. Eastwood's off his line. Can't make the tackle. Gibson with room to move. And Jackson somehow sold the dummy. The pass goes out to Ford. It goes loose. And fortunately for Hull, the pass was forward, but the tackling just disintegrated.
What a relief for Hull FC there. And I think Leeds are looking to do exactly the same thing that Hull did to them in the Premiership semi-final. And that's get a late try and break the hearts.
Mackie then feeds the scrum. Richard Gay bounces off the tackle of Schofield. Doesn't do that to Gibson though. We've got just 4 minutes left in this match. 4 very important minutes. It could go either way. Hull at the moment have that 5-point lead. Steve Durham tries to get past Devorty. The Thrupney stand starts to sing Old Faithful. I think that might be a little premature. I'm sure they're eager to celebrate the first victory of this season. McNamara slow to his feet. John Sharp looks outside to Blacker. Blacker with space to run. Hanley's come across. Blacker couldn't get the pass away, but he's taken Hull to halfway. Now Eastwood to kick. Devorty quick up on him, and that kick's spiralling high, and Edwards is up. This is tricky for Edwards, but he's under it, and he's got space to run again. Not that much space as Walker tackles him inside his own 25. Now Bentley. Walker again with the tackle. The cheer goes up as Greg Mackie's named man of the match by the sponsors. He still hasn't won it though. His try has given Hull the lead as Cavalhue again runs in, looks for the pass. He's looked tremendous today, Cavalhue. Here's Goulding, then looks inside, loops the pass out to Schofield. Schofield breaks one tackle, Jackson then makes it, and Portlock will pick the ball up. The cheer echoes around the ground, and Portlock doesn't look too healthy as he's get to his feet. Blacker though, he's going to try and make some yards. Tries to do it by running through Hanley. Not many people do that these days. And now Blacker, also slow to his feet. Steve Durham looks for a pass as he tries to escape Devorty's grasp. Jackson from acting halfback spots half a gap, gets through it, not quite, and Jackson was storming through. Chico Jackson, his namesake. The pass didn't come for him. Now John Sharp looks for the little kick for touch, and that looks useful. It looks very useful indeed. Just over a minute left in this game, and it's important that Hull keep Leeds pegged in their own 25.
Effectively what they've got to do is close the game down. Got to see like they did there, couple of drives and then kicks for touch. If they keep doing that, they'll win. If they don't, anything could happen.
Well, Leeds have possession from the scrum as Schofield's brought down by Portlock. And now Morgan Edwards. I think I'll have to beg to differ with you here, Jim. I think Portlock hasn't had that bad a game. It's easy to let one interception rule your heart, if you like, and certainly it's a costly interception, but Leeds still inside their 22. We've got just 30 seconds left of real time as Heron makes some yardage for Leeds. Greg Mackie again, what a tremendous game he's had. And Ellery Hanley goes. Ross Walker gets half a hand. Mackie gets his whole body in there. And then Steve Durham dives on top just to make sure. Schofield to kick, doesn't do so, the space is closed down and now looks for Goulding, half a space, Goulding can't go, still looking for the pass, gets round Durham, now he'll kick. And there's space there, Eastwood's come off his line, but he's going to regather before it goes into touch, finds Richard Gay, and now Gay's going to try and bring the ball away. Almost gets past Carl Gibson, but this is exactly what Hull wants. We're into time added on, and Hull have possession. All they have to do now is keep it.
So we're in stoppage time here at the Boulevard. It's Hull 16, Leeds 11. And for Hull, is it going to be a passage into the second round of the Yorkshire Cup and the first win of the season, or another defeat? Well, we won't have much time to find that one out. John Sharp spins round, contained by Devotee and Gibson onto Eastwood. Eastwood's going to kick down again. It looks as though it's in John Bentley's general direction, but bounces rather harmlessly over the dead ball line. Leeds have a 25 tap. Hull's defence just regrouped. Bobby Goulding taps it to himself. The whistles are going to start to echo throughout the ground now. Surely Colin Morris must start looking at his watch. Leeds are going to do all they can to break down the Hull defence. For Hull, not so much the Yorkshire Cup that matters, more a win. Greg Mackey makes sure that was safe as Ellery Hanley bearing down on him.
We've played a minute and a half of injury time now, Hull in possession, and surely now if they can just hold on to this ball, they're going to clinch it. They have done. Hull have got their first win of the season, and Greg Mackey really the man who must take the credit for that. It was his try that sealed it, created by Dean Busby. Of course, Walker Cross just 3 minutes into the half as well. They've waited a long time, they've produced a committed performance, and this time they've rolled Leeds over. The final score, Hull 16, Leeds 11.
That's right, it certainly felt as though when we first came back as well. Started to tire a little bit last 10 minutes, but I thought the lads were pulled together superb and helped me through it, and the team spirit was magnificent, and I think we've got the ball rolling again now. I think one or two sides can beware now.
You really had to work for this one though, didn't you? You had to come back and come back again.
That's right, Leeds are always a good side, and they're always dangerous on the counter attack, so we realised that we just have to work and keep at them, keep plugging away, and I think his tactics paid off superbly today.
After Russ Walker's try earlier in the second half, you were pushing, it looked like you were rolling Leeds backwards, and then that interception try came. That must have broken a few hearts.
Yeah, I suppose it did really, but as I said before, we expected Leeds to be dangerous on the counter-attack, so we expected things like that happening, and we just kept plugging away. We didn't let it dishearten us, and we kept coming back and eventually won. What
were you saying when you went a point down, when the game was there in the balance?
I think, as most lads will tell you who'll play the game, they're pretty confident, even though you drop one behind or whatever. If you go behind, you've got a feeling there that you know things is coming right and things is looking good, so it's like an inner strength. You know that you're going to win. It's a funny feeling, really.
And Dean Busby laid that try-scoring pass inside to Greg Mackey for the try. My co-commentator likened him to a Whiteley or a Knocker Norton. It was a delightful pass, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. He's a good little player, Dean. I'm sure he'll make a top player in the future. He's got a long way to go before he gets in the class of Knocker and Johnny Whiteley, but I think he's on his way, and today proved it with that nice little inside ball.
There's one man in his way as well if he wants a first team place.
Yeah, that's right, a little old man with bald headed, playing it loose forward, yeah.
The first win of the season then, is this really where the season starts now? It's more like the old Hull, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when Smithy first took over, I think we lost the first 4 or 5 games, but we know that things are coming, and I think we've hit it just right today. I think we could get a roll on now, so just keep his fingers crossed and let's hope that we get the run of the ball.
John Sharp, thank you very much.
Thanks.
It's great. A first win for Hull FC and presumably great relief for you, Noel Clear.
Oh, mate, I wasn't frustrated in any way, shape or form because, you know, I thought our performance is up until today. Even though we hadn't got a win, I thought we were more than adequate last week, and then just because of our ability not to control the ball the weeks before was our own undoing. So, having said that, you know, today I suppose it was a relief to get a win, but you know, I wasn't suicidal about it at all.
Any aspects of the result or the performance which particularly pleased you?
Oh, naturally, I thought, you know, Steve Durham's performance with only one prop on the field, especially in the last 20 minutes, was, you know, he grew a leg in stature. He's certainly come along in leaps and bounds. But the whole pack, the backs, you know, I thought Wayne Portlock made a fine debut. It's you know, weeks gone by, I suppose the hardest thing for me was pick the best one or two. But today, there's 13 that did the job, and that's the pleasing part of it.
I think people's vision of Portlock's debut are going to be clouded somewhat by the interception try. It was Gary Schofield's vintage stuff. I don't think you'd blame Portlock that much for it, would you?
No, you know, it's always a risk you take when you try and shuffle the ball wide, especially after broken play. And Schofield's the best at it in the business, and even though that I did tell Wayne Portlock about it, it didn't fall on deaf ears. You know, you can see by his reaction after the event he was disappointed, but you know, he learns, and it's a valuable lesson, and he won't do it next time.
At that stage, just before that try, you looked like you were going to roll them over.
Yeah, I think, you know, Leeds were in second gear somewhat today, mainly for the reason of their victory last week. You know, perhaps they came here thinking they could just go through the motions again, but you know, there's a lot of character and a lot of pride and guts about these fellas in the black and white and purple, and it's something that I'm proud of and they're proud of.
The guts is typified by your skipper Greg Mackey, went over for the winning try.
Yeah, blue is something of a rarity. You know, if the world was made up of all Greg Mackeys, it'd be a hard world to live in because it'd be fairly competitive.
Presumably the talk in the dressing room now is let's do Wigan next week. Yeah,
you know, one step at a time. We're not. We'll analyse and have a post-mortem on today's performance, and then go into next week with eyes open.
And added confidence.
Well, you know, I've always been confident.
No, thank you very much.
That's right. Great.
Thanks a lot. Of Richard Gay, John Sharp and the new Australian Wayne Portlock seems to have made all the difference for Hull FC. We said today would be the start of their season. The way they performed in beating Leeds suggests it is.